Most men are known for only being able to cook one thing. For most men, it's something as simple as toast, cereal, boiling water. With me, it's bread. I have had little old church ladies tell me that I bake the best bread they've ever eaten in their lives. How did I come to be known for my bread? Did I learn it from my grandmother or from my mother who learned it from hers? Not at all. I learned about the importance of baking delicious bread because of the little old lady that lived on top of the mountain, who, though nobody ever ate it, is said to have baked the most delicious bread in the county. Well, if no one ever tried her bread, you ask, how is it that she was known for making the most delicious bread in the county? And why did she make it in the first place? Well, she made it because she was on a barter system. This goes back to the 1970s, at least as far back as I can remember. If we go much further than that, I don't exist. My first memories of this little old lady on top of this mountain was not so much about the bread as it was the ingredients to make the bread. For you see, that was my family's part in it. There was a recession on, not like we've seen until now. Since that time, gas prices were outrageous. Folks were cutting costs anywhere they could. A lot of folks had returned to bartering. My family and I would drive up the old gravel road with wheat, with flour, with yeast, with eggs, even though she raised her own chickens, with all of the ingredients that was necessary to bake bread. And when we'd reach the top of the mountain, the old lady would be waiting for us. After, of course, we left our car at the last spot where we could reach, for the road was surpassable. The land became meadowed with barely a trail kept down through it from other people coming up to barter. But we'd make our way through the trails with our ingredients. I'd carry as much as I could for such a little kid. And there she'd be waiting. And what she had in exchange for the ingredients to make her bread was usually deer meat, sometimes squirrel, sometimes rabbit. If it were the harvest time of year, such as it is now, she would have fresh fruit. I was always told, as I got older, to never go see this old woman of the mountain by myself. But when myself, I, and some of my childhood friends reached our teen years and heavily got into riding motorcycles and ATVs, we couldn't resist going by to see the old girl every now and then. She was pleasant to talk to. And we could tell by talking to her that she had not left this mountain for many, many years. This was evidenced by the fact that she would ask us strange questions. She would ask us if we attended schools that no longer existed. Schools that had been one-room schoolhouses generations before our time. That gave us an indication of how long it had been since she'd left the mountain. Oddly, as friendly as she was, she too gave us warning. She told us that should we ever come up on her mountain, and should we ever happen to see that she's not home, No matter what we did, do not go into the forest looking for her. She told us that if we were to ever see her enter the forest, do not follow. Oddly, it wasn't long after that we rode our motorcycles and dirt bikes up to the top of her mountain one beautiful fall day, such as today. And we parked them below her house, hiked the rest of the way, because we didn't want to tear up her property and her land. And just as we reached the edge of the meadow, where her small house was, we saw her entering the forest. She carried with her loaves of bread. It had never dawned on us before this time to ask how a woman who had to be every bit of 90, if not 95, was able to kill, skin, clean, and butcher all the deer that she gave not just us, not just our family, not just our friends' families, but anybody who would bring ingredients for her bread with which they would barter. They never thought to ask, nor did we, how she always had an abundance of fruits that did not grow on her property. Being naive, being young, and being stupid, we followed her into the forest, where we learned her secret. We kept a safe distance so she couldn't hear us. I don't think she could hear too well anyway. She would stop, and she would look around, she would hunker down, and she would scan her surroundings, almost as if she was looking for someone. But we could tell by her body language she was not excited to see whoever it was for whom she looked. It was more as if she was making sure she saw them before they saw her. At times, she would scan her surroundings for long minutes, as if she could tell that she was being watched by entities such as we may have just seen. She would scan her surroundings to see if they were alone or if they were but one. And once she scanned back and saw that they were no longer there, she would continue. She would move on with her bread, continuing her journey. We followed her for a short while through a small wood, which then opened up to a mountaintop meadow. Always making sure not to get too close. By this time, not just so she would not notice that we were following, but so that whoever it was she was on the lookout for would not notice as well. We followed silently with stealth until finally she reached her destination. Another trail entered another part of the woods beside the old glen. And there, just beneath what appeared to be some sort of X made by timbers, was that for which she had been bartering. We watched with extreme curiosity as the closer she got to the pile of goodies, the more carefully she crept. We wondered, what were those loud bangs coming from the forest within? It sounded as if someone was taking a piece of firewood and banging it against the side of a tree. We had no way to explain what it was we were seeing. We did not get closer as she approached the pile of goodies. On this day, being fall as it was, those goodies happened to be freshly picked gala apples, though there were no gala apple trees around. There was a batch of not quite ripe persimmons, though there wasn't a single persimmons tree on her property. It was at this time that we observed as she made an exchange. When the old woman left, we did not. From a safe distance, we stayed behind. Who was this person, or who were these people at the tail end of this barter exchange system? Who was this old woman cooking this bread for in exchange for deer meat, squirrel, rabbit, and on today's venture, fruit? We had to know, so we waited as the knocks got closer and as darkness fell. Scared as we were, we continued to wait. We were willing to walk home in the dark of night if that's how long we had to wait to see who or what was coming to take the bread. We ran out of the glen, back into the woods, faster than we dreamed we could, despite our youth, despite our natural speed. Back into the trail of the meadow. Never before could we have imagined what we had seen. Never before could we have imagined feeling such fear. Later that year, midwinter, the old woman got sick. She got to where she couldn't leave her home. Our parents said, no matter how badly you feel for her, do not visit her, do not step foot on that mountain. We asked, who will care for her? Who will bake the bread? We were so persistent, our parents knew that we knew something we should not have known. We could find it in them what we saw, even though we didn't know exactly what it was that we had seen. They said, boys, I fear her time is nearing an end. No matter what you do not go back to the top of that mountain. And no matter what you do, no matter how many years you're blessed with living on this earth, should you ever discover these things near you, do not start gifting. Because once you start, you cannot stop. It won't end well for you. Before the thaw of spring came, the woman was dead. As boys, we assumed she died from her illness. It would be many years before we would hear the truth. That truth being that someone or something that possessed amazing strength had broken into her small mountaintop home and had killed her, ripping her limb from limb. In her illness, she was not able to keep up her end of the barter system that she had foolishly started years before. A barter system that I myself have started on my property. A barter system which I can fully accredit for being the reason why I bake such delicious bread.